This is HBR News number 416, The State to Cure Loneliness. Groomer teacher starts support group, where we talk about the stories of the week and give it the Badger treatment. Hello everybody and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. I hope you guys are doing well this week and that you're laughing at all of this absurdity so that you are not consumed by it. I am your host, Brian Martinez. Yes, I know I was just on here like an hour ago doing another show, but here I am doing the show that this is basically my show, or mine, and I, with the help of my lovely co-hosts. And so we're gonna give you more Badgery goodness. I hope that it's not an overload. I'm joined by, as always, Mike J, Dr. Ranmercam, and Hannah Wallen. And we're gonna be looking at some news stories. And what are we looking at this week? Well, this week we're gonna be talking about a proposed new bill that promises to combat loneliness. A teacher who was caught half naked with a student is now setting up a support group for people who appear around young people half naked. Andrew Tate releases a new comic book. You're gonna love that one. And more, so stick around, it's gonna be a good time. And be sure to join us afterwards for the patron only show. I saw this one. I don't know if it's gonna be like any good. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be somewhat rage inducing, but this is from The Independent. And it comes from someone that Olivia Petter, I think. Yeah, Olivia Petter. And she is making the case that men have a problem. I don't know if you guys know this, but men are in crisis. And now everyone's talking about what we've been talking about for 10 years. And it's not going to be solved by either Andrew Tate or Caitlin Moran. But it will be apparently solved by Olivia Petter, who's going to write about it. So now we have a bunch of people fighting for, I guess, control of the conversation around men and what they actually need. So we'll find out what it is she's going to propose in the patron show. If you want to join us on the patron show, you have to become a Badger by going to feedthebadger.com and setting up a monthly subscription. $5 a month will get you into our Discord, and you'll be able to consume all of the additional content. And also lots of other stuff, like Allison, I think they, on the main channel, they just released a new Ragening, and the patrons got to watch it at least like a week or maybe a few days before it was actually printed or published, and you can like give feedback and suggestions or whatever, I suppose. And there's lots of other great community things going on. So go to feedthebadger.com, start a monthly subscription, and join us. Become a Badger yourself. And if you don't want to wake up one morning to find that we have been yeeted from the internet for our views or for becoming too noisy or whatever it is, making a mess and not cleaning up after ourselves, I don't know what people get banned for these days, go to badgerfeed.com or honeybadgerradio.com. That is where all of our content lives. Plus, I feel I should mention this. We have about 2 hours left in the fundraiser. We're very close. Hopefully you can get us like right over that finish line. Go to feedthebadger.com/support to support us. Anything will do. Really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much, because I do want to keep doing this work. There's JoJo's lobster toy, because he's the top of the hierarchy. But JoJo's not in his bed, and I think it's because he's hot. Because we were out, and he did do his business. Great indoors. Thank you for asking. And it was a lot of business. He was definitely like at the breaking point. So I'm just trying to put him on the screen here so that you're not looking at an empty bed. Feels like Tiny Tim. All right, so I think that's everything. So let's get into today's stories. And we're going to start with male supremacy. So I have a little bit of an announcement, but I had Lindsay do a little write-up for me. So I'm in a group called the XY Crew. I don't know if you guys know about XY Crew, but it's basically what Paul Elam set up. It's an online space with meetings and stuff, usually done through Zoom, where men talk to other men about whatever. You know, there's lots of different. Janice Fiamengo does a weekly thing. Paul Elam does a thing. It's on Subscribestar, $5 a month. I've been involved with XY Crew for at least a year. I know I was with it like before I ended up going to the hospital, and there's kind of I have like gaps in my memory from that, but it's a very positive thing. It's men getting together with other men. Paul set it up. I think it's pretty cool. You know, you pay a small fee, $5 a month, and you can hang out, do Zoom meetings, talk about whatever, your problems, your aspirations. We can help you with your personal goals. It's just a positive thing. except that the SPLC seems to hate it. So, Paul Elam's XY crew has been added to the Southern Poverty Law Center's Hate Watch under male supremacy. A Voice for Men has been taken off the SPLC, so that was, Paul's old sort of thing was A Voice for Men, and now that A Voice for Men is not something that he contributes as much anymore, the SPLC has removed him from that, but they put him back on, because the original Voice for Men is now being operated out of Australia by Robert Brockway. Shout out to Robert Brockway, by the way. Paul Elam still has an extremist profile listed on the SPLC website, full of old and mostly out of context A Voice for Men quotes. And their primary source for this, by the way, is David Futrell, also known as We Hunted the Mammoth. The same old articles from way back that are still being sort of used as their primary source. The SPLC explains that the hateful ideology of male supremacy views women as genetically inferior, manipulative, and stupid. Adherents of this ideology are fixated on rigid gender roles and vilify any deviation from their strict gender dichotomy, seamlessly weaving together misogyny, transphobia, and homophobia. And according to the SPLC, a major moment for male supremacists was the overturning of Roe v. Wade, calling it a political gain. Shock horror.
Yeah. The SPLC personifies the meme with where they've combined where they've combined women, the women yelling at cats meme, if for people who are familiar with it.
I think I know it.
Where they're yelling, you hate women, and then you look over and all the cat has done is say men are good.
Yeah. So, go ahead, Mike.
As much as I would like to say, nobody gives a lingering waft of a shit what the SPLC has to say. I don't think I could quite say that without some degree of hyperbole. Because there is no nobody and there is no everybody. However, I think we've reached the point in history wherein fewer are convinced than are categorically unconvinced by the SPLC. The people who will say, well, this just proves it. The SPLC are a perfectly trusted source of non-partisan political analysis, and they could not possibly lie, even if they tried. Those people are significantly outnumbered by the people who will just laugh in your face for even dreaming of sourcing any semblance of worthwhile information from a communist propaganda money sink, half-assed chain gang drama llama think tank like the SPLC fucking see. Needless to say, both sides are outnumbered by the folks in the middle of the survey, who can only say, lol, what the fuck is the Southern Poverty Law Center? What even is that? Does it have something to do with fried chicken? And really, if the culture war is a thing that we are to entertain as an analogy to a war, then it surely has to involve medals. The cultural equivalent of war medals. If the SPLC declares you as a baddie, you get your SPLC badge. If the ACLU declares you as a baddie, you get your ACLU badge. And you get long service awards. Every year you're in the headlines of the smear merchant mass media. And you get a medal every time you've been banned from social media, or from a convention, or from a country for any even bullshit reasons. By such criteria, our good friend Paul Elam is among the most decorated generals in our ranks, along with Lawrence Southern and Tommy Robinson. This is where it gets really controversial. Nick Fuentes, and here's where it gets even more controversial. Andrew Tate. Here's the twist: this metaphysical medal awarding system does kind of exist already. We refer to it by the shorthand meme we call the Streisand effect. It can help to platform people you like and of whose messages you approve. But the same effect finds itself extending to those whose messages you find somewhat less digestible. So, what's the antidote? What's the antibacterial spray you can apply to your nearby surfaces to prevent this unpredictable chaos from inevitably going too far? It's really quite simple, folks. Shut the fuck up. If you ever wanted Andrew Tate to fuck off, all you ever had to do was shut the fuck up about him. If you want someone else to replace your antagonists in the limelight, talk about them instead. It's that simple. Take it from me, and take it from the honey badgers. We live in an obscure shadow banned corner of the internet. And why? Because nobody talks about us. And yeah, and that's fine, because it's not about being talked about. It's about talking about. So let's never talk about the SPLC and what a bunch of cunts they are. Let us never speak again of the people who actually talk sense. Heaven fucking forfend. I think I've spread a sufficient fog of war there. Talk over it if you will.
I just want to say that I got this from the horse's mouth. So at the last there was a monthly meeting last. I want to say it was Friday at like 1 p.m. Eastern in the XY crew, and Paul and Mike Buchanan and several others were there. And Paul told us that he was, part of the, he's always been in the hate watch for at least for as long as I know about the SPLC, but now they got like XY crew, and not only that, but they have XY crew localized to Roanoke, Virginia, right here, because that's where Paul lives. He lives in like my town or my city or our city, I guess, because I moved here because he was here. Yeah, I mean, we're basically the first to put it out there, other than the people he spoke to in the meeting. And I asked him, can I make this a news story? He said, by all means. And he is going to be making his own video, and I think he's going to be writing something about it as well. So I just want to let you know that's where I got the info. It is straight from the horse's mouth, and we have the website here. We can totally like look at it. The only thing I will say about this is that I'm kind of at the point now where groups like the SPLC, the ADL, and Citizens United, and the UN, and all these others, they're just not legitimate to me. They're just not legit. I know. I mean, like, I don't care that they have like the KKK on there and neo-Nazis on there. I don't care. I don't, because they're so bad about other groups that they don't like. For example, they put like what I think they call them radical Catholics are like a group that they made up. And I haven't seen radical Catholics, guys. I don't know what that looks like. Are they like Inquisitors from 40K? Like, what does it look like? But they have that, and they have like homesteaders and preppers. I mean, these are not hate groups. They just people who are pro gun rights. I don't think that because you hit the mark a couple of times, it makes you a credible source. The SPLC, the ADL, and all these other groups, the United Nations, they are not credible. They should not be given any amount of legitimacy. I don't care if they say the right thing sometimes. I don't care, because if you're good at your job, if you're good at what you're supposed to do, then you're not going to make mistakes. You're going to be very careful. They're not getting their research or whatever, their information from good sources, and they're okay with that. That's the main thing, right? David Futrell has been debunked for years, but they still use him because they like what he says.
David Futrell is actually abusive, and
sure.
He's done some things that are really questionable. Like there was a time when A Voice for Men actually was receiving threats of violence, and certain A Voice for Men personalities were receiving threats of people coming to their homes and engaging in violence. And he stirred the pot and made allegations to further anger the people that were making the threats. when we wrote about this issue. So
Yeah.
this is something that, like, he's not just an asshole who lies about us. He's literally a stalker who tries to get people to engage in violence against MRAs.
Yeah, and these people back him up. I'm saying they have, like, we have to just say that the SPLC, the ADL, and so on, Citizens United, etc., all of them, they are not legitimate. They are not legitimate. And if somebody tries to tell you, well, the SPLC said, tell them no, full of shit. They lie about so much that it doesn't matter that they might get something right. If we're gonna have groups like this, right, that sort of, like, I don't know, make people aware of what they call hate groups or something like that, like political radicals, revolutionaries, and that kind of thing. If we're gonna have that, then they have to be good at what they do. These people, they run cover for Antifa, for commies, for all kinds of violent, radical people, and they demonize, you know, people that they could like they put the Proud Boys on there. I'm sorry, but I haven't seen the Proud Boys do anything except defend themselves. I haven't seen everything about them, but I know that this is a lie. Patriot Prayer, same thing. Oh God, you're religious and patriotic, you must be an extremist. No, I'm not. I'm sorry, but these people are not legitimate. Period. I mean, they aren't. We have to stop accepting that, and I think that more people need to say it. Like, I don't care who you cite. These people are not legitimate, because if they were good at what they were doing, they wouldn't make, and I'm going to put this in quotes, mistakes, because I don't think they're mistakes. I think they do this on purpose. They have the authority, okay? They're given the authority by the media, by academics, by the entertainment industry, and so on, of being able to identify what they call hate groups. And it just so happens that whoever they mark with that mark, who they nullify, we talked about nullification last week, whoever they mark with that gets, you know, dismissed, they get demonized, they get attacked, they get debanked. At this point, we're doing that shit. We're taking away people's jobs, we can cancel them, and the SPLC has that power. They cannot be allowed to have that power. They are not responsible with it. Does anybody else have any thoughts on that?
No, I think you're right. One of the big things that needs to happen with the SPLC is that they need to be they have tax exempt status as a charitable organization, but they don't do anything that is actually charitable. They're completely a political action committee, so they should have to register as a political action committee, and they should be taxed. That would change things quite a bit. Their money would diminish significantly if they had to pay taxes on it. The other thing is, every organization that is listed by the SPLC is in their hate watch. Every organization that has experienced any financial loss as a result of that should sue the shit out of them.
Yep. Right. And I know that they're a woke bias company or group or whatever, is that they use the word cisgender. That tells you right there. Like, that tells you right there where they stand. That's like what they're about, right? Like, they don't like that there are pro-life groups that exist. They call, you know, they're basically 100% behind feminist ideology, and that's why it's important to point this out, because it all comes from that. And that's what they're all about. So not at all credible, not a credible source, full stop, in my opinion. And I don't know what David Futrell's up to these days, but I could have sworn he was irrelevant, but these people keep him relevant. So anybody else have any other thoughts on this story?
It's difficult for them because they don't know what camp to land on, the TERF camp or the intersectional camp.
Yeah. It's weird that they say that male supremacists are like transphobic against trans men. Subjugate trans men is what they say. That's what I didn't know that we were about that, but
yeah, I've never heard of that. the civil war at this point appears to be between two different factions of feminists, and those who can't fall down on one side of that war will just disappear into the ether and keep taking the piss out of men's rights advocates. Because that's what both sides of this feminist war agree on, that men don't deserve rights. I mean, some of them think men can be women and women can be men, and some of them don't believe that. But both sides are quite adamant that men don't deserve rights.
Yeah.
And any semblance of those rights should be crushed by what we're calling true women's rights advocacy.
Mhm.
Never mind.
All right. If there's nothing else, then I got a super chow, and I'm gonna move on to the next story. But let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. I mean, I'll put a poll in. I'll ask you guys if you think the SPLC has any legitimacy. So I will put it in right now, because some people might disagree, but
I mean, within our audience. I mean,
yeah, they might.
This is what I don't understand about people.
I'd like for them to make the case, but yes, go ahead.
This is what I don't understand about people posting tweets with a poll, and they're posting it to their own audience. Like, yeah, it's kind of obvious what results you're gonna get from your own audience. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't really.
I guess so, but like I think that because this is a bit, it's not like a really easy thing, because it's not like a related to men's rights by itself, so people might have different views on groups like the ADL and the SPLC and the UN, but I think that they're basically like they're our enemies, like all of them.
I wouldn't be subscribed if we got 100% of people saying the SPLC are a bunch of corrupt dickheads and they should be disbanded immediately.
Yeah, exactly.
That wouldn't say much because it's our audience,
Well, some people are voting yes, so
I rarely post polls, but one thing I like to do when I post them on Twitter is ask people to retweet it, because then it gets outside of my audience. That helps a lot. It's harder on YouTube, but I think our audience is probably going to give predictable answers in terms of this.
I mean, I guess if a tough question comes up, it might be worth doing.
Yeah, something that's controversial. This shouldn't be controversial, but the question of whether gynocentrism is a genetically programmed instinct or more of a and gynocentrism being pure gynocentrism, not the golden uterus, but the just the fact that women are female, earning them preferential treatment. Like that's not natural, in my opinion. I think outside of maternity, there's no genetic benefit to that.
Yeah.
And so I've been talking about that on Twitter, and it for some reason seems to be very controversial, and some people get very upset about seeing it articulated that gynocentrism is not natural, not pure gynocentrism anyway. So that would be something that we might see debate on, if we asked that. But in terms of the SPLC, I don't think it was ever a legitimate organization. Like, even in its beginning, it's like feminism. They pretend to stand for an underdog, but what they're actually doing is promoting communism. In the long run, both of them are really only exist for that purpose, to promote communism.
All right, well, let us know what you guys think about this story in the comments. I'm going to move on to the next one. Speaking of communism, kind of. We're going to be talking about, well, it is because it's statism, but this is interesting. So, U.S. Senator Chris Murphy, a Democrat from Connecticut, has introduced legislation hoping to address the issue of loneliness. So the government is going to get involved with loneliness. The National Strategy for Social Connection Act would create a White House office, oh my God, focused on improving the quality of life in the U.S., including guidelines for social connection similar to existing national guidelines on nutrition, sleep, and physical activity. According to Murphy, quote, it has real political implications because when a lot of people are feeling lonely and unattached, they find or seek attachment in fringe groups and in extremist movements and deep, dark places. I think he's talking about men there. The act also noting that, quote, social isolation and loneliness pose a significant risk to individual health and longevity, create economic costs for individuals and communities, and decrease community resilience, safety, and economic prosperity, end quote. They continue, quote, the National Strategy for Social Connection Act is a simple roadmap to begin addressing this epidemic by naming the problem, developing solutions, educating the public about best practices, and improving data about the scope of the problem. As an article from The Federalist points out, these are the same folks that demanded that you self-isolate, hide your face, and that the lockdowns would only last 15 days, 2 weeks to stop the spread, right? Stella Morabito writes in the article, beware of bureaucrats wanting to be your BFF, and that's right here. I will have a link to that in the description as well. It's a really good article. Points out the absurdity of enlisting the federal bureaucracy to solve a deeply spiritual problem. While acknowledging the pain of loneliness is unhealthy and can impact physical health, she says, quote, what everyone should know, but many won't acknowledge, is the government's role in unraveling our society and causing this problem. And the DEI, that's, diversity, equity, and inclusion, steeped in identity politics, is baked into the Surgeon General's advisory as a non-negotiable part of this strategy, which is literally dividing people. That's what DEI does. From her article, quote, we can see it in the constant push, particularly by Democrat members of Congress like Murphy, for policies that tolerate and even promote family breakdown, urban blight, crime, addictions, and countless other alienating conditions in life. As Nathaniel Blake recently pointed out here at The Federalist, the sexual revolution has played a huge role in our epidemic of loneliness and social isolation, particularly in stimulating family breakdown. Broken families, suppression of speech, living in fear, all these and more are central elements of isolation and loneliness. Yet those who promote such destabilizing policies show no intention of dialing them back.
Unfathomably based.
Yeah, right?
There's a couple of premises I need to establish here. Firstly, a government is a kind of machine. It's not a technological machine made of silicon and metal, nor is it an organic machine made of carbon and bags of mostly water. For a Star Trek reference that some of you will get. The government uses organic bags of mostly water as components in its motherboard, and those bags of mostly water use those aforementioned boxes of mostly metal and sand in their own sort of sub-programming. What the government machine is made of is mostly memes. Mm-hmm. And yeah, no, I don't mean pictures of cats and troll faces. I mean mimetically reproductive information of any kind. I mean the ability to teach your children how to make fire or build a wheel. It sounds esoteric, but you need to understand what it is, because as I said, it's what the government is made of. Okay, so second premise, there are some things a machine cannot do. And when I say that, I should once again delineate between organic carbon-based machines like humans and technological silicon-based machines like computers, and of course mimetic information-based machines like the government. The only kind of machine that can treat loneliness in humans is that good old-fashioned bag of mostly water of what we call a human. You cannot assign a robot the task of stuffing human beings together and making them benefit from one another's company. Robots have no fucking idea how human beings operate on that level, and you cannot assign a government the task of stuffing human beings together and making them benefit from one another's company. It's like putting a Facebook group in charge of an ecosystem. It is retarded, if I'm still allowed to say that. You'll notice I've managed to frame all of this without resorting to the notion of spirituality. to say loneliness is a spiritual problem really doesn't help anyone either. Why would it help anyone? What does it mean to say, I have a spirit, but my computer does not? I have a spirit, but my government does not. I mean, yeah, yes, it does. A spirit is whatever you say it is. We even have the concept of the quote-unquote spirit of the law, as opposed to the quote-unquote letter of the law. Even the government can be described in terms of spirit. That's what I'm saying. You don't need to resort to this ambiguous language. As a matter of fact, you shouldn't resort to it, because that is where mimetic machines like the government are in their element. Yeah, you don't think spirit can mean whatever the government tells you it means? Might you know what to spirit means? Yeah, wake up and unwoke the fuck up, whatever. Loneliness is not a spiritual problem. It is a human problem. Computers are not going to fix it. Governments are not going to fix it. The only machines that can fix human loneliness are other human machines. And really, that's the most obvious, most basic bitch thing I've ever had to say on the internet. That is saying something. And I can't believe I went round this many houses to try and say it. Obvious thing is obvious. Obvious thing about obvious thing is even less obvious. Go figure. Someone else talk.
I was just gonna say what the things that they're proposing as the like steps that they're gonna take to solve this problem involve shit that we already know how to do, like, you know, going to where people are at and building community. It's all basically all the stuff that the government took from us, but that's not even the whole story, because yeah, I mean, the lockdowns made things worse for some people. I know for children in particular, you know, if you were in a state that had limitations, like when I was here in Virginia as a substitute teacher, the schools didn't do any of that. The students were still able to like go to class. They didn't have to wear masks. They were playing in the playgrounds and everything. So they're probably pretty well adjusted and fine. But, you know, if you lived in one of those other cities, like the big cities, like Chicago, which, you know, I left, students were expected to go to school from home, wear masks the whole time, be in these like desks that had plastic bubbles around them and all kinds of other ridiculous shit. Yeah, I think that's going to do some damage to young people, to children. But it's not just that. I mean, we've been, like, the same people that are proposing these solutions have been dividing the population against itself in a number of different ways for decades. Men and women, black and white, gay and straight, etc. That's their whole, you know, it's their whole raison d'etre, whatever the word is. And so, of course, it's going to make things tense. Of course, you're going to create more, you know, people who are that feel alone and isolated. And of course, according to this Democrat lawmaker or guy that's hoping to push this law through, it's really only a problem because men, he doesn't say men, but we know what he means when he says some of these people are going to go find, you know, like radical fringe groups and like become violent. He's talking about incels. I mean, that's the language, right? And incels are men. I mean, there are no female incels in this guy's mind. So that's not really the problem. So, I mean, they're creating it's the same thing as feminism. They make the problem, they make it really bad, then it starts to affect like normal people. Then they're like, well, we have to solve the problem with the state. The least qualified, you know, organism to do that. And yeah, I'm just, you know, I think that people should not be lonely, but the state is not the answer to that question. All right, does anybody else have anything to say about this?
The state's an expert at solving or coming up with solutions to problems that it created itself that are the creation of new problems for it to solve later in order to perpetuate its own existence. Politicians will always do this. They will always take important things away from the general public. They will always take things that men naturally do that make society safe, great, happy, forward-moving, provide better health care, provide a better, more fun living environment, so on. They will always take these things away and either sell them back to you or sell you a load of bullshit to convince you that they're actually bad things and you need to stay away from them. And this is just a great example of someone discovering that and talking about going back to normalcy as a solution to abnormalcy that the state created. The worst thing we could do, though, is trust the state to administrate that rather than making this. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
I was agreeing with you. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And rather than making the state let go of these things and let society go back to its normal, natural behavior. That's really all that needs to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Pare back the state mechanisms that govern social behavior. That even goes to blue laws. Pare out all of the blue laws. Everything that is, governing like sexual interaction, use of substances, what you may or may not eat, what may or may not be called a food. People should be able to figure that out for themselves. We don't need the state. We don't really even need things like a Food and Drug Administration. It's not actually helping. It's actually done quite a bit of damage. Even just looking at the history of people using FDA-approved medications that they think are safe because the FDA approved them, and then those medications turning out to cause catastrophic health problems. So really, this is just evidence that, again, government causes pretty much all of the problems that face modern society.
Yep. And they offer placebos.
That's ironically the one way that the government could get involved and help this, which would be to stop being involved.
Yeah. It would. They need to legitimize themselves, right? So, well, anyway, so yeah, I don't know if this is gonna pass. I hope it doesn't. I think it's ridiculous. I mean, if you need the state to like figure out your loneliness problems, you are beyond help. Like, reach out to some friends, go socialize, do something. You gotta have friends. You gotta have family. You gotta have a coach, a teacher, a priest, somebody that you can go to, but not the state. Not the state. And they're like, they're incentivized. Their primary goal, as like the state, is to remain relevant in every part of your life, because then they have a reason to exist, and you will continue to need them. So this is another reason why they should be rejected, especially if they're trying to fix social problems. But anyway, feminism could go away, and I think that would fix a lot of social problems, by the way. So, but let us know what you guys think about that in the comments. I guess we'll move on to the next story. I have some super chows to read first, so I'll read through those. Okay, so first I got a super chow from Rorschach's No for $10. Thank you, Rorschach's No. And he says, no arm twisting required for me. I was going... Oops, that's the wrong Chan. Hold on a second. That was... Okay, no arm twisting required for me. I was going to donate either way. Our institutions have turned against men as they reallocate resources from one gender to the other, but nothing is essential for themselves as men for men. Rather than these communal institutions, which are predominantly what are already in line, what women are likely to do. Thank you, Rorschach's No, for the $10 and the comment. Appreciate it. Meredith G gives us $5 and says, HBR News 416, the SPLC was never legitimate. It was always predicated on a lie. But the reality is that it's an NGO that exists right now to create lists that can be used to cancel people. Yes, that's right. Debank people. Look at what's going on with Canada. People have been debanked for supporting the trucker protests and things like that. And Trudeau is a straight up dictator now. And for some reason, no one's talking about it. Be advised that being on the SPLC list can result in debanking. This organization is foundation to the establishment of the social credit system. Yes, that's absolutely. Meredith G gets it. She is the top G. Plain Dane gives us $13. That's a lucky amount of money right there. And says, hey Hannah, did you get a chance to check out Wrangler Star? I recommend watching his YouTube short video titled Pathetic. In the video, he says he feels bad for the young man that were raised by single mothers that ran their fathers out of their lives and didn't teach them a damn thing. He's based on feminism, pro-masculinity, and the government's overreach. He teaches homesteading, prepping, camping, guns, armor, axes, knives, survival, and shits on feminism. He does consider himself a tradcom, but he's not the type that blames men for women's behavior. He actually holds women accountable for their bullshit. He's like a blue-collar Jordan Peterson.
Oh, he's interesting, but I haven't had a chance to check him out.
Yeah. Is that the fitness guy? Because there was a guy that I'm in contact with that's like a fitness guy that I guess started making anti-feminist posts or something, but I have a lot of fireside chats, so I'm trying to organize them. Paul Elam is going to come on too. We're going to have him on for a fireside chat. Be on the lookout for that, probably in August or September. So yeah, there's lots of things going on. Thank you guys all so much for the super chows. And yeah, I guess we'll look up the Wrangler Star thing. And I'll talk to you. Oh well, I'm not. I feel like I'm leaving. I'm sorry. I'm not leaving. Let us know what you guys think about that in the comments. We're gonna move on to. These are not super chats. These are super chows. They're going into our Discord. That's why you don't see them in the live chat. Okay, we're gonna move on to the next story, and this one is well, it's Mike J's turn. So let's talk about this woman.
So, kind of went from a neutral angle on this. You guys come to your own conclusions here. In 2013, former Scottish English teacher Eppie Sprung, quite a name there.
That's quite a name.
Currently age 37, was placed on the Sex Offender Registry Act after being caught having sex with a 17-year-old dyslexic male student outside of the classroom in public while pulled over in her car. Sprung pled guilty to sexual activity with a person under 18 while she was in a position of trust as a teacher, and lost her teaching job as well as her husband in the process. She would eventually invite the 17-year-old to live with her. I assume he was 18 at the time, so it was no longer a crime, but does not state in the article. But he also broke up with her in 2015, 2 years later. Sprung would eventually avoid any jail time by receiving a 6-month community payback order, which I believe is the Scottish version of community service. I could be wrong. Part of which meant having to undergo psychosexual counseling. Hoping to move back on from her previous mistakes, Sprung, with a grant from the National Lottery Community Fund, wants to establish a group for sex offenders and sex criminals. Next Chapter Scotland, as she is calling it, aims to help offenders to share their experiences and navigate discrimination. In her blog post, she writes her pitch about the organization, stating, quote, "Hi, I'm Eppie. Mum, wife, daughter, sister, friend, volunteer, business owner, and sex offender. That's not something that's comfortable to write, and it's certainly not something that's comfortable to live with. But here we are. I made a series of bad decisions a long time ago that hurt a lot of people, and that led to me living with the title of sex offender for the rest of my life." End quote. Her post continues reading, quote, "I started Next Chapter Scotland because I feel passionately about people with criminal records sharing their experiences, to help others to find a way through their own challenges, and to help anyone without a criminal record to understand the lifelong impact a criminal record can have." End quote. Her organization is just getting started and is looking to use the grant money to help develop a website and develop a social media presence.
Just imagine if a man started an organization like this to complain about being discriminated against because he is a sex offender. When we hear from feminists complaining about the release of sex offenders to the public, like for instance Brock Turner, who his offense basically was not realizing that his sex partner was slightly more drunk than he was and passed out in the middle of a sex act that they started together in an alley on the way to his dorm room. Not the vicious stranger rape that feminists portray. And they got so mad that he could be considered less of an offender than they wanted him to be thought of as, and more rehabilitated than they wanted, that they actually had a judge removed from office. And they showed up when he came back to the Dayton metro area. They showed up in a neighborhood here that was a residential neighborhood with families and children with the types of guns that they've been petitioning Washington to ban so that nobody else can have them, and patrolled his street like he was a dangerous threat to everybody there. This guy that just wants to get on with his life, right? But here we have this woman who is starting this organization, and she's getting public funding to do it. And the only reason that she's able to do it is gender. Now, in my opinion, we should be striving to rehabilitate and reintegrate every type of offender that isn't so crazy that they can't be rehabilitated, right? It's better to have somebody be a productive member of society who does their job, pays whatever taxes everybody else has to pay, and gets on with their life and doesn't offend again. But if we can do that for women, we damn well ought to be able to do it for men too. And being a woman doesn't give somebody the right to whine about being held accountable for doing something egregious. That's basically the reasons why I posted this in our chat for this show.
And we realize that what we're saying herein is the cliche to end all cliches at this point. The one that will be staunchly ignored by one side and jadedly overlooked by the other. Can you imagine if the genders were reversed? And the problem is, yes, you can imagine that. But there's something in the way. There's the memories you have of being a 17-year-old male, being so desperate for physical affection somehow that you would have relinquished your virginity at the first given opportunity to sleep with your teacher, and then go on to drop out of school and move in with your rapist for 2 years. Wait, what? Yeah, no, a teacher is tasked with making sure you pass the educational course in question. If all they can do is make sure you drop out of the school altogether and spend the next 2 best years of your life servicing the cancerous cunt of some deluded paedophile, I'd say they've done a poor job of being a teacher. Also, crime. The secret ingredient is crime. Can we? At what point is it a crime? Yes, male teenagers want sex, but so do female teenagers, to the same degree. At no age in life are they more desperate for a ruddy good fucking than they are when they're in their teenage years. But if a male teacher fucks a female student, and then she drops out and lives with him for 2 years. Stop talking. You had me at fucks a student. He's not even allowed to do that for obvious fucking reasons. How is it that a female teacher is able to get from fucking a student to living with that student. I repeat, it's not just because of socio-political hypocrisy. It's because of the law itself. Women can do things to men with total legal impunity that would get men raped in prison if they did those things to women. This is why we frame things in terms of rights, people, and this is why we are not afraid to call ourselves men's rights advocates when we do it. I mean, for fuck's sake, I don't throw the word rights around like it'll solve everyone's problems. But seriously, if you're charged with teaching a minor and you instead find yourselves raping that minor, I think we can actually go ahead and not give a fuck what your pronouns are. Or even your chromosomes. Your right to do that should extend no further than a man's right to do that. Namely, nowhere. Humans are not your playthings. End of. Simple as. Get thee to a nunnery. And so on. Oh, and jail. Straight to jail. Believe it or not, jail.
I'm of a few different minds on this story. Like, on the surface of it, there certainly needs to be a path to redemption. And I don't think an organization like this could be the worst thing in the world. A little irked that I'm essentially being tax money used to fund this. That's a little weird, especially through through the lottery of all things. But then just looking at the details of the case, and I kind of shift over to Doctor's perspective a little bit more. Two of the things in the article I did not include in the write-up, but two things in the article that really, really, really kind of rubbed me the wrong way is they referred to the victim in this case, at least once, as her lover, which is sometimes something I always hate in these cases when they try to go and throw that card out there. And the other thing too is, and I could not find a reason for this in the slightest, and it was something even people in the comments pointed out, they included a picture of the victim. Like, that's something this kid needs in his life.
Yeah, I've never seen that before, especially with is it when he was a minor?
I have no information on that.
Yeah.
I mean, it could, I think, safely be said he is definitely no longer of minority age, seeing as this happened roughly a decade ago. And I'm guessing that at the point he was 17, so you take her age, which they say was currently 37, knock that down by 10, so she was 27, I guess, and he's now how old she would have been. So he's 27, she's 37 now. Back then she was 27, he was 17. So I guess he's of majority age, which is the same reason why they I guess saw no big deal with him moving in with her after turning 18, because they split in 2015, which would assume he was at least 19 at the time. It's a very, very confusing series of events here that I kind of wish they went a tiny bit more into, other than here's this great organization founded by a not so great person.
Yeah. I got something for Mike real quick I want to play.
Right to jail, right away.
And believe it or not, jail. Anyway,
you should all know the memes until you can say the memes.
Yes.
From memory. Memes were a thing before the internet was a thing.
No trial, no trial.
Yeah, they
no
just
nothing.
didn't have a
Jail,
name.
Jail.
At one point, memes were just a group of guys sitting around a campfire loudly quoting Anchorman at each other. For hours, this would go on.
Exactly.
or telling campfire stories like the the one where the guy's hook from his hand is hanging from the door handle at the end
Hookman,
of
Hook
the
Hand, and
story.
Cardor?
Yeah, all those, all those campfire stories. Those are the original memes. Those are the original creepy pastas.
Well, yes, that can result in jail. Believe it or not, Jared.
Well, I could be wrong.
Gen Xers will
but I
remember,
believe,
Johnny, I
diversity
want
is
your
an
liver.
old wooden ship that was used during the Civil War era.
Ron, I would.
Diversity.
There we go.
Okay, anyway. Any other thoughts on this story before we move on to the last one? Okay, I did get one more super chow. Thank you, Wrangler Star, for that. So, oh no, I'm not Wrangler Star. Yes, Plain Dane. I'm sorry, I'm confused. Plain Dane gives us $5 and says, no, Wrangler Star is a different person. The fitness guy you mentioned is Coach Castle. Okay, so that's who I'm talking to. All right, anyway, thanks for clearing that up. Let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. I know that these stories of adult women raping underage boys, it gets exhausting because you feel like you hear it all the time. And I mean, I guess I should be grateful that the Daily Mail even reports on it. They're like one of the few that will, maybe like the Examiner and some others, but like the mainstream, nah. I mean, I guess the Daily Mail is kind of mainstream, but they're kind of a rag, to be honest. It's weird that they like report on things that are, a little bit outside the norm, but most of their stuff is like so-and-so's bikini body, Here's some paparazzi pictures. But anyway, let us know what you guys think about this in the comments. Let's move on to the last story. I just thought this one was super cringe, and I thought you guys might get a chuckle out of it. I just wanted to go out on a note that was less depressing, since we just did a show about suicide. And I'm going to give it to Mike J. So let's hear about Andrew Tate's comic book.
I just want to point
Dear
out,
God.
it's like just barely an hour past the show. We are chugging along. We are a well-oiled machine today.
I'm trying to be efficient. It's good because
I'm good for us.
I did double duty today, so I'm good. I'm glad to be done quicker.
Give yourself POB, man. Pat on the back. So, the newly freed figure of controversy, Andrew Tate, has opened up yet another side hustle. This time venturing into the tumultuous world of comic books. Last Thursday, Tate announced his first series of Top G comics. The comics, which appear to be a heavily fictionalized autobiography of Tate, tell of him, quote, fighting against the forces of the Matrix and corporate tyranny, end quote. Tate, in his own words, describes his comics stating, quote, they don't want you to know the truth. They want you living in a mental cage, chained by a weak mindset. I become the superhero of the youth by telling the truth and teaching young men to be strong, and now I am being punished for it in real time. These stories reflect the harsh truths of the Matrix, how I escaped it, and what I predict they will try next. End quote. Tate's comic is available now for a very reasonable price. Let me just check here. Oh yeah, $97. Which will only buy you the very first issue, with future issues presumably being just as expensive.
Again, you might ask yourself, how did Andrew Tate become so popular? Is there no other alternative? Yes, there are people out there who've been trying to deconvert you from this oikophobic, misandric cult. We've been doing it openly and publicly for 10 years or so. And we've been throttled and shadow banned out of the public eye, while the likes of Andrew Tate get thrust into the public eye. Maybe instead of asking yourself, why is it so possible that Andrew Tate is there to fill this void, you might ask yourself, why does this void exist?
Mm-hmm.
What was deleted so as to create this void? And to that question, I would raise my hand and say, hi, Honey Badger Radio here, entity that's been right here giving sensible advice for 10 fucking years. You haven't heard of us because of reason I just outlined. We represent the feasible, achievable reality that can be achieved. If only you weren't such a bunch of gynocentric cocks, but you don't care. You never cared. You were only ever interested in giving women the best possible roller coaster of life that they could achieve. By that I mean, never mind raising a family, never mind maintaining a relationship between a man and a woman. We need to tie men down to whatever helps women experience the best possible roller coaster of life that they could possibly experience. And it turns out for some women, roller coaster Disney rides are not enough. Some people actively want to be thrown into a pool by the shoulders by some fucking Islamic manlet in a SpongeBob swimming trunks fucking thing going on. I don't know where I go from here. Perhaps this is a reflection of what a nightmare negative reflection this reality has become. Why the fuck not? I'm going for a cigarette.
Again?
You can all fucking talk about this while I'm gone.
Oh, jeez, Pete. Look, this. I've been looking into, like some video that people have sent me about Tate, and my take on him is really not gonna change all that much. And I've said before, he's not necessarily anything special, and he's not the devil that he's being made out to be. He's popular because he says some things that should be common sense. And some guys have improved their lives because they've listened to things that he's saying now.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not trustworthy necessarily because, yes, he's said some great things now, but he's also done some exploitative things toward men in the past. And the only criticism he's had is over
Misogyny.
how exploitative that is toward women.
Yep.
Exploiting men apparently is not relevant if the women involved, can be looked at as exploited as well. And the only claim to that exploitation is that while making them money by helping to promote their sex work that they chose to do, he also made some money, which basically makes him a pimp, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you take his advice, you're taking advice from a pimp. And I don't think anybody should be surprised that a pimp who has a little bit of wisdom and a little bit of foolishness and a lot of bravado would make a comic book about himself and dramatically overcharge for it. And there will be people that'll pay $97 for this comic and think they've gotten something great. And everybody has the right to make their own decisions on that. But for fuck's sake, this is probably the best show I've watched in ages.
Yeah, right.
Watching people freak out over Tate, watching people worship Tate, watching Tate worship himself, watching the state try to shut him down and end up looking foolish. Like, the whole thing. Just don't get caught up in it to the degree where you don't protect
grab some
yourself.
Grab some popcorn.
Right.
Don't necessarily. I agree 100%.
Right.
I've been saying it from the beginning. Like, let it unfold. Don't take sides, because I think people will be tempted to side for the wrong reasons. I think that everyone involved in this is hopefully going to get what's coming to them, but it's got nothing to do with us. That's how
I will say
it.
this. Watch the show. Don't get caught up too much in defending the guy as a person. You can defend somebody's right to due process.
Yeah, on the basis of what they're accused of only.
Right,
not necessarily
you can defend somebody's right to due process on the basis of a right to due process. No matter what the allegation is.
Right.
Whether you're accused of picking your fucking nose, or raping people, or human trafficking, or whatever else allegations can be brought up against somebody. Conviction and condemnation have to be based on solid evidence, and the individual should have a right to a robust defense against those allegations, and that evidence has to be brought out in a court of law, and that's how we handle it, and that's how we seek the truth and then decide how to act on it, right? But at the same time, defending an individual's right to due process and an individual's right to do business legally without being railroaded based on false allegations does not make the individual right.
Yeah.
Doesn't make the individual good. A complete and utter son of a bitch, an asshole, a con artist can stay within the law and stay within his rights as a human being and still be the scum of the earth. And that's fine. Like, we can acknowledge that, you are seeing somebody exploiting simps, right?
Yeah.
We can acknowledge that we are seeing somebody exploit male vulnerabilities. And we can also acknowledge that it is correct when he says self-improvement and focusing on making yourself a more successful person and a better person will make you more popular and bring you more life satisfaction than chasing tail. And he's aware that if that there's going to be a level of guys chasing tail and he can make some money from it. So don't get exploited. Don't fall for that shit. And don't fall for the shit that feminists are saying either.
Yeah. I mean, if anything, I think that feminists are the real enemy. But I will say that his book is not good. It doesn't look like it's got good art. And he's literally ripping shit off. Mike, did you see this
that's not
picture
surprising either. I mean,
him,
he's not going to be original.
No, because he's not an artist, so he's like obviously like hiring people to do the work for him. But like Mike J, did you see this thing of him doing the Neo with stopping the bullets with his hand?
Yeah.
I mean,
it looks very much a little derivative. I guess. And the other thing too is like they've got actual pictures of him holding the book.
Yeah, I know.
And it's
I know.
That is not more than 20 pages, my guy.
No, it's not. It's probably.
And I tried to look around to see how many pages. Couldn't find it anywhere. That's usually something they tell you.
It looks like 26 pages, which is your typical comic book length. $97 plus, by the way, $20 shipping fee. So we're looking at $117 for this book, and he knows it's gonna
steak dinner for two.
He knows it's gonna be a collector's edition. Like, he's telling you this is a collector's edition.
Yeah, that's what the whole thing's predicated on.
Please don't buy it. It's not good. Like
that all being said,
okay.
Honestly, it can't be any worse than the shit that the main.
Oh yeah, no, it's
the
probably
Marvel and DCs are pumping
you're
out right now.
You're right, but
it'll at least have an over-the-top entertainment factor.
I'm sure it will, but I don't think the Marvel books are charging $97.
Well, yeah, that's the one thing. If there was just that, if he was just charging, hey, $20, $25 for shipping, or altogether, that'd be one thing, and it would be funny because Tate does have a collection of. Just little stories and tweets and things that, again, he claims happen in his life that would make a very compelling, kind of funny little
telling tall tales.
Collections of incidents. Like one of my favorite tweets. I gotta pull this up.
Isn't that the plot of Baron Munchausen? Like
it's dude, sort of.
Yeah,
that
right.
Could work.
Yeah.
I mean,
well,
when you think about it, though. Nothing he's done is original. So what are you going to expect from a comic?
Well,
it's
no,
going to be the same. It's not going to be like his advice all comes from other pickup artists, right?
Yeah, that's why I think it's
and
funny.
A little bit of stuff he's lifted from Jordan Peterson.
Sure, absolutely. Okay,
I'm not even talking about like his advice. I'm talking about like his weird little side stories. Like
all
this
of
one
his
tweet,
stuff comes from
like,
other people. So what would you expect in his comic, but for it to be lifted from other storytellers?
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. Like, I've never read this before. He has a tweet that says, "At laundry today, 3 mortals attempted to intimidate me, unaware of my divine powers.
Oh no!
I extend my hand and clicked my fingers, then asked him a simple question. Do you know the secrets of yoga fire? They are not sure why this changed their minds, but it did."
The man has become a parody of himself.
Yeah, that's crazy, dude.
I
Only-
actually
I
would
thought
have
only
loved to have been a
Dawson
fly
knows
on the
yoga
wall
fire.
in that room, and if that story ever really happened.
Like Brian, I would love to see that like done like in the style like a JoJo comic book panel.
Yeah, right. Oh, oops.
Tate
Sorry.
activates his stand, Iron Cobra, leaving them confused and dazed
Top
as he
G
manages
is
to slip
obviously
away.
the name of his stand. Is Top G. But I just thought this is really funny. I thought that the asking
It's a
price
fun note to end
is
things on.
fucking ridiculous. The art, as an artist, and I don't claim to be great, but as an artist, that is not good artwork. It looks.
Brian, you could shit out something better.
I
than
know.
this in an
I don't
afternoon.
think it looks great, and I'm not putting myself on a pedestal, but this is ugly. The colors, the book, the paper that's printed on it better be fucking bulletproof for $97 plus $20 shipping. That is insane. But you know what? Go for it. Maybe what he's doing is because he's all about his brand, and I know that is a true thing about it. He's all about his brand. Top G comic is good. I have no idea. I haven't read it, and I'm not going to because $97 is retarded. But anyway, there's plenty of other people making independent content. I am glad that he is creating something, even if he's asking for too much. You're welcome to do whatever you want in the market, and people can respond however they like. I don't think the young men that like him are gonna pay $100 for a comic book, but who knows. But yeah, just as a piece of artwork, not great in my opinion. Check out the Rippaverse or somebody else. Go support Luke Weber. Go and support people who aren't gonna essentially rape your wallet for a mediocre book. And it's only the first issue. Can you imagine? They're all gonna be like $100 books. All right, so let me look at your super chows. Nope, no super chows, but I did get a Rumble rant from NobaFan21. Thank you, NobaFan. I don't know. Do I have a Rumble chan here on this screen? No, I don't. I'll switch it over here and I'll give it to you for that. NobaFan21 gives us $2 and says Tate might as well call himself Nick Simmons with his comic for all the plagiarizing happening. Yeah, he's gonna. You know what this looks like? I don't say this very often about a lot of properties, okay? But this does kind of look like a male Mary Sue story. It's like, you know, I think that self-inserts are cringe no matter who's doing it. Usually women do it. I don't know why, but usually woke SJW type comic book writers do self-inserts. You've seen this many times in comics, in video games, in television shows, movies. Yeah, like constantly, right? It's
what
usually,
have the last 3 Kathleen Kennedy films been?
Yeah, exactly. Self-inserts are cringe no matter who does it, though. And this is the first time I think that I can recall that Andrew Tate self-inserted, or a man self-inserted. Like, you know that Jack Kirby? Jack Kirby was he's called the king of comics. He was like the illustrator that brought to life books like the Fantastic Four and the New Gods and Darkseid and all these great Marvel characters, Galactus, Silver Surfer. He would self-insert in his books, but he self-inserted himself as the Thing. That's how he thought of himself. So I would say a very humble, approach. He wanted to be in his book, but he made himself the Thing.
Yeah,
and
the Thing was never too powerful. He was never overpowered.
No,
he was always
no.
at a perfect right level.
He's actually the weakest member of the Fantastic Four.
But he was also probably the most likable. Had a good catchphrase. Flopping time.
He had a great catchphrase. And Kirby, he did a couple of other self-inserts, but you wouldn't know it by looking at it. Is what I'm saying. And you know, but the Thing is the one I think he's best known for. So you know, that is an example, but it's how you do it well. Yeah. You know, you do it in a way where you're kind of poking fun at yourself because he was like this short, like kind of like stout man, and you know, big eyebrows, and kind of like, you know, what would you call it? A rugged individual, I guess.
Curmudgeonly.
Yeah, curmudgeonly, you know. But he wasn't mean, but he looked mean. Like he had one of those faces that people wanted to avoid.
And he was kind of a sourpuss at times.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember my favorite line with him at the end of a comic book is him and Wolverine are walking away, and he's like, "I thought they came out with a cure for you guys." Like, you mean mutants? No, Canadians.
That's pretty good. So anyway, yeah, that's how you do it well. I just don't. This is just cringe to me, and I just thought it was too funny. So anyway, let us know what you guys think about it. Are you gonna buy Andrew Tate's Top G comic and support his new empire of $100 24-page comic books that have mediocre art and probably cringe storytelling? Let us know in the comments. And I look forward to seeing your thoughts on that. So I guess now we're just going to go on to the after show, or the patron-only show, and we're going to be looking at this article from The Independent. Hopefully it's not too boring to go through. I don't know, but I expect that it's going to either be boring or rage-inducing. So if you want to join us on that, become a Badger by going to feedthebadger.com and setting up a monthly subscription. $5 a month will get you into the Discord, where you'll be able to enjoy all of the hours and hours and hours of additional content. And if you give at higher levels, you can contribute to the conversations and in the patron shows as well by hanging out with us. And sometimes we do other kinds of streams. We do movie nights and shit. And I'm planning on hosting the first in a series of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure marathons. So, because I know there's people that I'm always referencing it, nobody gets it, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna show it to you guys so you guys see where I'm at. So I don't know, probably this weekend. I have to figure out a good day, but I will be doing that in the Discord, and come hang out with us. So feedthebadger.com to start a subscription. I hope to see you guys there. And I guess that's it. So let us know what you guys think in the comments. If you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, leave us a comment like I said before, and please, please, please share this video, because sharing is caring. Thank you guys so much for coming on today's episode of HBR News, and we'll talk to you all in the next video.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.